Welcome to another episode of Fun with Procurement. I'm your host, Emma Edwards, part of the marketing team here at 2x2. And Fun with Procurement is the place to listen for any procurement professionals or anyone with an interest in procurement to get invaluable insight into the issues facing us today. Our first speaker is now a regular with Fun with Procurement. He is Rob Kissack, the founder and CEO of 2x2. Rob is a proud father of two, and he helping people is what motivates him, whether it's saving churches, schools and businesses and charities money through 2x2 or helping his local community. Rob is the chair of trustees for his local church where he works with others in need. We also have a new guest joining us today. Although he's certainly not new to 2x2, it's Jonathan Morgan, Procurement Director at 2x2. Jonathan has over 30 years experience as a procurement and supply chain professional, having worked in a number of multinational companies at senior management level with international experience gained working and living abroad. Jonathan recently celebrated his 10th anniversary at 2x2, and he's committed to reducing costs for our customers and developing robust supplier solutions. Jonathan is married with 3 grown-up children. Today's episode is Procurement Zero or Hero, the qualities of a great procurement professional. But before we get into that, Jonathan, I'd like to welcome you and ask you, what is your favourite time of day and why?
Thanks, Em. Yeah, and thank you for the invite for this morning. My favourite time of the day, I love mornings. When we had the dog, her and I used to go out early in the morning, and that was a very important part of the day. However, I would say if it's a specific time, I would say it's 6 o'clock. And I know it sounds a little bit specific, 6 o'clock in the evening, but that for us has always been a family time. And my wife has always insisted is that when the children been home, and obviously they're adults even at the moment, we'd all gather around the table for food. So 6 p.m. in the evening is a very important time in the Morgan's household, where we talk about things, we discuss things, some quite interesting topics. I think you can imagine when you've got sort of 5 people around the table, but it's a great time for us, and I really enjoy that. And I'm glad my wife has made that a specific time for us over the years. Because that's become a very important part of family life for us.
Yeah, definitely important to have some protected family time. How about you, Rob?
I think actually similar. So for me, good to see you again, Emma, I should say as well, and welcome, and good to be back. And in terms of my kind of favourite time of the day, or best time of the day, I think it is definitely that time post-work and pre-evening activities, and with 2 rapidly growing boys, there's a need to ferry them to various different places. Certainly as we come out of COVID, and all the different clubs and events and all stuff have restarted. That time, I think, kind of probably around between 5:30 and 6:30, where we do make a point of trying to sit down as a family and eat a meal together. And I think, yeah, like Jonathan, I think we have some interesting discussions. If I can get them off topics like the Xbox or I think Madfoot is the latest thing. This online cards for football players, ratings cards for football players. If I can get them off that topic and onto anything else, then there's usually a pretty good discussion happens at the dinner table.
Brilliant, thank you. Sticking with you, Rob, then. So let's get into it. What do you think makes a good procurement professional?
I think it's a really good question, Emma. I think the first thing that I would say is integrity. Is actually, I think, the first quality that really makes a good procurement professional. I think whenever procurement is kind of talked about within an organisation, there is a sense generally that procurement is delivering something which is of real value, but is being done in the right way and should be being done in the right way. So I think anybody who's a procurement professional, the first quality that I would say I would look for in a procurement professional is integrity, that ability to do the right thing. There are lots of occasions where there are opportunities to take shortcuts or to to potentially do something to further your own career, or to do something to benefit somebody else in a kind of financial way, or any of that kind of stuff. And I think you've got to have a real strength and integrity about you as a procurement professional, because you come under a lot of pressure from different parts of the organisation that you work in, and also external factors. So yeah, for me, I definitely think one of the key qualities is integrity. And then I think kind of rolling on from that then is that ability or that thirst for knowledge and that desire to want to learn. And I think that distinguishes the procurement professional from probably what was historically would have thought of as a buyer, somebody who just came in and placed purchase orders, or went and maybe did some of the sourcing, but predominantly was kind of a form shifter and a form completer, to a true procurement professional. I think that ability, that thirst for knowledge, and to look for solutions and to try to identify how procurement is run, how procurement can add value as an organisation, how procurement can add value externally as well. And I think really that those two, I would say, integrity and that thirst for knowledge, that desire to get better and to make things better, I think are two real qualities that stand out for procurement professionals.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rob. Yeah. I think, it's not just about being able to order some stationery. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think adding to that as well, I would say character and competency as well within sort of the individual. And also that person to be an all-round person. I've experienced things in my past career, which is now, I think, adding up to nearly 30 years. In procurement, then, you can be a project manager, you can be a commercial manager, you can even sort of be involved in HR, really, in terms of relationship with suppliers and customers. So I think having that all-round ability, and I think I'm biased in terms of procurement is one of the best vocations you can have, because you touch all those different areas of business as well. But I think, as Rob said, having integrity in what you do is important, because we are exposed to areas that sort of, it can be a temptation in procurement. But you keep that integrity, keeping your character, having the right competency. So in terms of the hiring process as well, it's very important when we look for people to come into procurement, we're looking for the right person. But I do think that, you become an all-rounder in procurement, because you are looking at, balance sheets, and sort of you are looking at sort of profit and loss accounts. And so you have that financial element, commercial element, you have the project management. So I think what makes a good procurement professional is having that all-round ability, but we're having the drive and motivation as well to do the right thing. So yeah, and I am biased. I think it's one of the best professions that you can sort of be into and take up. And it's one of those things that I didn't choose to come into. In a sense, procurement found me. So it was one of those things that once I got into the procurement profession, it absolutely sort of ticked all the boxes for me. So all of those things really, I think, Emma.
Great, thank you, Jonathan. I'd be interested to know how procurement found you, but I think that's a story for another time. So, Rob, what qualities do you think a company should be looking for when deciding on a procurement professional to work with?
I think it's interesting on that comment that Jonathan just made. I think procurement kind of found me rather than me finding it as well. And I think when he talks to a lot of procurement professionals, I think there's not many people who when they're in school set out to be a procurement professional when they're doing their GCSEs or whatever. But it does seem to be that way, that because of the breadth and the opportunity that it creates to be able to get involved in the organisation, across the whole organisation that you work in. I think it is a great profession to be part of. And I think because of that nature, because of the fact that it touches on so many parts of the business, if not all the parts of the business or the charity or the organisation you're working in, I think one of the key qualities for me is that ability to relate to people. So Jonathan and I have a number of conversations in the past about how procurement is really about people. It's about relationships, that commercial relationship. People don't buy from companies, they buy from people, and they buy from people that they trust. But also people want to sell into organisations where they trust that the people buying those goods and services are going to do what they say, and they are going to, honour that payment, or they're going to make sure that they're going to give that feedback that they've asked for that service or that product. So I think for me that ability to manage relationships and that people-centric kind of approach is really important as a quality to identify in the people that you're bringing in as procurement professionals. Because if you've got somebody in your procurement team who maybe struggles to engage or is much more, I don't think you have to be an extrovert, but I think you have to have an element of extrovert about you to be able to reach out to other people and to be able to kind of engage with people in that way, and particularly when sometimes, dare I say it, procurement may not be the flavour of the month in terms of the organisation. Lots of organisations, it's felt as a blocker, as something that slows down the process. And I know we've talked in the past about how on other podcasts about how procurement actually is a value-adding service within an organisation. And I think really if you've got somebody who is a people person who understands relationships, understands how to work those relationships, but in a way which demonstrates that integrity I touched on earlier, I think that's a real key quality to be able to demonstrate. And I know from my personal experience, I found where I've in the past, back 10 years ago when I used to do procurement in emergency responses, it was certainly the relationship side of things where you've got that balance between the professional relationship in terms of making sure you're not aligned too closely within particular suppliers, but then you've also got that requirement that when there is a need, when there in that instance where there was an earthquake or there was a flood or whatever it might be, or occasion of volcanic eruption, and you needed to rely on those suppliers, you had the relationship, you were personable enough that they would come to you and they would want to work with you to find the right solutions. And I think really that's a key quality. I would say that personability to be able to be approachable, to be malleable, to be able to change and be flexible, but also to always be able to engage with your suppliers in a way that they understand where you are, what the line is in terms of negotiation, in terms of what you'll do and what you won't do, but that you can have that in a human conversation, I think is really important. And I think that's something as we move into the whole space around digitalisation of procurement, I think that'll be a really fascinating piece to look at in terms of how does digitalisation work in a profession where actually that human relationship is so important as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rob. Certainly a lot of qualities needed then. Jonathan, do you have anything to add to that on qualities required?
Yeah, just coming back to, I think, the point where Rob was talking about there is that in the past, maybe procurement has been seen as let's just get the best price. I think over my career, I found that, we've gone from that serving other departments to having that position on the boardroom table, that we're now strategic in what we do. And I think it is about adding value to what we do as individuals, but to the organization, to our customers, our stakeholders, even to our suppliers we're responsible for. So, that adding value is so important. I've always personally looked at and been drawn to the relational side of procurement, only for the fact is that in my nature, I'm very much in terms of, I guess, a people's person. And I try to demonstrate that in the relationships that I build. But you have to be, firm and fair in what you do as a procurement person. But I think there are individual qualities also that, I would look for and people should be looking for when they're looking at engaging with procurement people. And, you have to have an analytical part of you, a commercial part. There is that relationship part as well. In terms of you are a solutions finder as well. Oftentimes I found myself in positions where, in my previous career in manufacturing automotive, a line may have been on stop. You're looking for a solution to try and bring something across the water, many thousands of miles. How do you get it there within 48 hours? And so you become this solutions finder as well. And therefore, that's why coming back to that other point is that it touches on all areas really, I think, of the business for me. So, looking for those qualities, in terms of we're adding value, we are a relational sort of department because we do work with customers and suppliers and also across departments as well. It's important to build relationships, I think, amongst your colleagues as well. So, all of those things really, Emma, I think, in terms of that. And the most important for me is that we seem to be adding value into the business as an organization, as a profession, that we've got that seat at the table. And we are not just operational, but we are strategic as well in terms of our position and our place in the business.
Yes, absolutely. I was just going to come back to you, Jonathan, as you were the one with the longest history in procurement. What have you learned throughout your career that has made you good at procurement?
I think so. It's subjective for a start. Emma, do you call Rob myself good at procurement? Depends who you're speaking to. No, I think in terms of that, it's about treating people, I guess, as you want to be treated is as an important part of that. And, we are supporting our stakeholders. We're supporting our clients. It's important that we treat people well. And I've learned many things, that people will do things for me as an individual, not just for my organization. So it's important that I represent my organization and I represent myself in a professional way. And so it's building trust, I think, in terms of the relational part, again, coming back to what Rob was saying, really, in terms of that previous question. And it's building trust within sort of the organization to make sure that we are seen as a department and as individuals of delivering that value to the business. So I think, in terms of trust, integrity, being yourself as well. You are a decision maker. We have to make decisions. We have to stand on our own decisions as well as being part of a team. So it's important that we use those qualities really to deliver the service we need to do within the organisation.
Absolutely. Rob, what do you think has made you good at procurement?
Well, obviously, I've got a lot less experience than Jonathan has, so apologies, Jonathan. But I think from my side, I think it is understanding. I think when I first started doing procurement, I didn't understand. I understand the nature and the context of it within the thing that I was buying, but not necessarily within the organisation and the impact it can have across an organisation. And I think that's probably the most important thing. I think don't undersell. I think it's easy sometimes when we're not procurement people aren't sometimes the greatest sellers of what we do. And I think actually don't underestimate the value that you bring as a procurement professional within your organisation, and don't let others underplay the value that you bring within your organisation either, because I think there's a lot of hidden gems out there of procurement professionals who are doing a lot of work that's fantastic for their organisation, but it's maybe not as widely known as it could be. And so I think that's definitely something I would say is important for people to try and remember and try and understand and look for how they can promote the good things that they're doing and that their departments are doing, the procurement departments are doing within their organisation. I think that relationship piece and that ability to look at both the short-term problem and the long-term objective of where you're trying to get to, I think is also really, really important. And particularly, I think commercial organisations, but organisations in general can become quite narrow focused on the problem that's there today. And I think as procurement professionals, one of the things I've learned is, yes, there is an issue today and we need to resolve that, but we can't do that at the expense of the long-term objective, and trying to get that balance. And I think that's a really important thing for procurement professionals to try and do is get that balance. And following on from that, I would say a real understanding of the strategic objectives and direction that you're trying to go in as an organisation is critical. Because if you've got that clear understanding of the strategy and where you're going, it's much easier then to think, okay, how does this short-term decision impact on that, and how can I adjust this or change this short-term position to ensure that we're still achieving our long-term objectives. So I think there's those are, I guess, a couple of the kind of key things that I've probably learned over the years, probably through not doing it at times and getting burnt, and occasionally doing it and it coming off as well. So I would say that's probably the key takeaways from my career.
Well, I think in terms of what you've said there as well, I guess in terms of, I don't know what you found, but I've often had to reframe the discussion sometimes with other colleagues about putting and reframing the perception of procurement. I think we've had various discussions, over the years that we've worked together, and I guess previously as well, is that coming into an organisation where sometimes procurement can be perceived as just doing the orders, but I think it's about reframing the discussion with our colleagues and with other departments, because then it's about the perception of what procurement can bring. We are very biased, I'm sure, in terms of our beliefs in what procurement brings to the table, but sometimes it's not seen, is it, really, in other departments? I don't know what your experience is of that, but I've found that I've had to do that sometimes. It's about having those discussions and reframing those discussions about bringing in sort of value added into the conversations we've had, because we bring that strategic element, we bring that element of putting value on the bottom line, which is so important as a procurement department.
Absolutely, thank you. And sorry, go on, Rob.
Sorry, apologies, Emma. I was just going to say, and I think that's one of the things that I found from the work we've done over the last 10 years, engaging with other organisations. That's one of the things that excites me the most, is actually almost kind of lifting the lid on what procurement can do for them as organisations. Whether that, I know we've done this in schools and charities and business, but it's that opening their eyes and saying to them, like, this is actually what we could do for you. This is what procurement could deliver for you as an organisation, and then seeing the kind of light bulb moment. Oh yeah, okay, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's see what would a procurement department look like, or what would it look like if we invested in doing this. And I think that is something that procurement can bring to an organisation, and we should always be looking to try and bring that fresh pair of eyes, that slightly different lens than the finance department will look at a problem from, or the sales department will look at a problem from. Where I think procurement has that ability to look at it from a different lens.
Yes, definitely. So to wrap up then, Jonathan, what are your top tips for any procurement professional?
Oh, top tips. How long have we got? I think in terms of as a person, to be passionate in what we do. When you talk to a procurement professional, you probably see that the shoulders come up a little bit, and sort of we sit up in our seat a bit when we talk about procurement. Other people are slumping in their seats, but we've got to have that passion. We've got to bring that passion to the table, to the organisation, to show people the value that procurement brings. I think it's about developing robust policies and procedures, having strong KPIs, key performance indicators to monitor and manage things. One of the things I've brought into my career, and I've brought into every organisation I've come, is a little motto that says, what gets measured gets done. I think that's so important that we do those things. And, again, about building strong relationships. That's both with our suppliers are our biggest asset oftentimes, as well as internally with our colleagues, about doing that. And so, Rob talked a little bit about the digital side a little bit earlier on. It's about embracing digital. We're in a new era now as well. We're in a new sort of position where I used to be many years ago to where we are now. And you can see that change, and you can see the things that have happened through the many years. And so embracing digital as well is so important in terms of bringing new ideas into the table. How we used to do things is not how we want to do things in the future. So it's all about that, really. And, being proactive and not just being reactive to things. It's important seeing things, and we can see those things in procurement. You often can see things that are going to happen. So what do you do to prevent those things from happening, like risk mitigation and things like that. So it's having all of those robust policies, procedures, embracing the new technology, be passionate, be yourself. and bring to the table your own character, your own competencies, and deliver that service, and be a champion and a hero for procurement.
Some excellent advice there. Thanks, Jonathan. Rob, any top tips from you?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think some really good tips there from Jonathan, actually. But in terms of I guess if I look back on the early stage of my career, I think the one tip I would say is find someone to be your procurement mentor. So find someone. I was fortunate when I started, when I fell into procurement. I was fortunate in that I had a fantastic boss called Julian, who was absolutely brilliant and was great at not only showing me the importance of integrity and the importance of that professional procurement knowledge and understanding, but also the direction that I could go in terms of my career and my kind of professional progression. And I think he was vital to me in my early stages of my professional procurement career. So a tip for anybody that's new into procurement or looking to develop, find someone who can mentor you or get alongside you and support you in that. I think that's critical. I think then Jonathan touched on that ability to want to learn and understand, what are the new things, what is happening out there in the procurement world, digitalization being a classic one. There is a lot of shift of change within the procurement profession at the moment. There's a lot of change within other areas and other sectors, and other kind of professions, which will have an impact on procurement. So, don't be blinkered just by what procurement's doing as well. Look outside of the profession and see what's happening in different professions and see how you can add value in that. And I guess then my last one, to be a hero of procurement, is don't fear. So have no fear. So don't be afraid to step out into areas that you don't know about and learn about, or step out to speak to someone who maybe is an expert in a particular niche area of procurement that you don't know about, and go out and reach out to them. Procurement people, as Jonathan said, we do sit up a bit when people start talking about procurement. And much as it might seem strange to the rest of the world, we get excited about it. And I can't remember a time where I haven't talked to a procurement professional. I literally can't remember a time at all in my profession, in my career, where I've talked to a procurement professional and talked about something and they haven't wanted to impart, advice or support or help in some way, shape or form. We are a very supportive community around what we do, because we recognise we are probably a slightly weird and wacky bunch. But I would definitely say have no fear in terms of stepping out and approaching people and asking them for help, because people, generally procurement professionals, want to help. That's part of why they're doing the business and the job that they're doing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rob. I think you hit the nail on the head there with saying it's a supportive community. That's absolutely what it is. Thank you both for that excellent insight into what makes a great procurement professional. If you want to find out more about our fantastic speakers, you can find them on LinkedIn. They'd be happy to connect with you. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it useful. And you really don't want to miss our Christmas special, Santa's Supply Chain Procurement Excellence, where you'll hear top tips from Santa's elf and how he keeps the North Pole running smoothly. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for listening. See you next time.